Hi everyone, and welcome to episode number 29 of the Karen Knits podcast. My name is Karen, and I'm coming to you from South Central Pennsylvania, where I live, where I work, where I knit, and where I get into all kinds of other crafty shenanigans. Today is Saturday, August the 22nd, 2020, and it's a gorgeous day out. It's a little bit of a breeze, it's a little bit warm, some white fluffy clouds in the sky, a bunch of blue sky also showing up. It's a gorgeous day outside. We've been out already for some breakfast and we're heading out again later on this afternoon to go do a few other things. So it's just a gorgeous day. We're heading into the late part of summer, almost starting to feel a little bit like the early parts of fall, and I'm loving it. So sipping a cup of tea. This is one of my David's tea flavors. It is, is that even focusing? This is cream of Earl Grey, and it's a really yummy flavor. It's a bit of an mostly Earl Grey flavor, and a few other little flavors thrown in there. Here's some of the info about it. It's a really yummy tea. I really like this one. It's really yummy. So I haven't made as much progress on some of my stuff this past week. We are heading into the school year, really closing in on starting up on us. We start up classes again on Monday. The students are coming back to the campus now. And we're getting into the swing of the academic year again. So once that starts to happen, my spare time tends to dwindle a bit. But such is life. So I do have one finished object to show you this week. And that's another little itty bitty sweater. This is miniature sweater number 3. It's a group of designs that were put out by Wayfaring Yarns Designs and Sweater Sisters Designs. And this pattern came out on this past Monday morning, or when I got out of bed on Monday. It had appeared sometime during the night. And so it came out on the 17th of August. I finished it up, I think I finally finished it up on Thursday. Like I say, I haven't had as much time for knitting this past week than I have in most of the earlier weeks recently. I'm using a 2.5 millimeter needles for this, and I'm using leftover fingering weight yarn that I have. So far I've used only my own hand-dyed yarns, and this is no exception. This one was also with my own hand-dyed yarn, and it's a cute little cardigan, little cable down the front. And it's a really adorable sweater. It kind of blinks up here a little bit. That'll straighten out once I get it blocked, but it's a cute little sweater. Raglan sleeves work from the top down. It's a really cute little sweater. I think I might add some kind of little closures onto it, and this will go with my collection of mini sweaters. And as I had mentioned last week, I think what I am going to do with all of these is I'm going to create a garland, and I'll probably put some kind of ribbon up somewhere in my craft room, and I'll get little miniature clothespins, and I'll hang all the little sweaters on there. I went rooting through all of my old emails. I opened up my old laptop that I retired earlier this summer, and I went back through all of my old emails there, and I actually did sign up for the miniature sweater annual knit-alongs, I guess you could call them. I actually had signed up for it the very first year that they ran it in the summer of 2017. So this is the 4th year they've done it. So I went back through all my emails and I was able to find each of the emails for each of the 4 patterns for each of the 4 years. Well, I don't have the last pattern for year number 4 yet because that won't be released until Monday morning. But I did find all of the patterns. So I suspect once I have sweater number 4 done, I'm going to go back through and I'll systematically work my way through each of them. The first year were basic sweaters. The second year was basic color work designs. The third year, I believe, was lace, and this year is cables. And I went looking through. I remember last week I had mentioned that I could see just sitting over there, just out of reach, I could see that I had one of the sweaters I made from the first year. I don't remember if that was the very first sweater or if it was sweater 2, 3, or 4 out of that year. But I do have one of these already made. It's a little bit shorter than the other sweaters I have now, so I might re-knit this one, or I might just leave it as is and just add it along with the rest of my little mini sweaters. This one's also was made, I don't know what size needle, I have no idea what size needles I made with this. I made this 4 years ago, so, but it is my own hand-dyed yarn, and it was probably done on 2.5 or 2, these are probably 2.25 needles, I'm guessing, because it is a little bit smaller than the other guys this year. But that is one of the other ones I've made. So far I have 4 out of the 16 they've published so far that I've made. So I'm thinking I will work my way through and I will knit all 16 of the cute little sweaters, and then I'll get them all hung up on one of the walls in my craft room, and I'll definitely post a picture of all of that goodness for you guys to see once it's all finished. So that's all I have for finished objects this week. One of the little mini sweaters was completed. The other one is from probably about 4 years ago, so that will not count as a finished object right now. So that's it. Next week will be the 4th of the 4 patterns coming out this year, and I suspect I will try to get that'll come out on Monday. I'm back to teaching classes starting on Monday, so it might take me a little longer to get it finished, but it'll be a nice little treat to cast that on once I'm done for teaching for the day. And I'm guessing that next week I'll have even less progress to show than I do this week. So on that note, we'll take a look at my works in progress. So my first work in progress is my Tenya sweater, and that is living in my field supply, my fringe supply field bag that I picked up a little while back. And as I mentioned, I haven't managed to get nowhere near as much progress on this week as I did last week. This is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter. I'm using Quince & Co. Turn yarn for this, and I'm using 3.5 millimeter needles or a US size 3 needles on here. And this past week, I've managed to add just a few rows. It's probably a little less than an inch that I've managed to add on here. So it's not as much as I would have liked to add to it, but it's progress. It is progress. So here's what it's looking like now. I still have all my ends to tuck in, and I'm getting close to the point where I'm going to have to decide on what I'm doing with the the armholes or the arm openings and what I'll do with the sleeves once I get to that point. So I am getting closer. I'm going to have to take a good look at it, hopefully this week. I was hoping I would have had a chance to get that done this past week, but it didn't happen. So I am hoping that this week I will be able to figure out what I'm going to do about the sleeves, or work out how much more I need to knit on the body before I have to start worrying about the sleeves. I think I'm probably at the point now, I'm probably at close to about 16 inches, which is where they recommend on the pattern that for my size you knit to 16 inches before you start working on the armholes. But I still need to decide if I want to make the sweater a little bit longer, which I think I do. I might want to do an extra couple inches longer before I separate for the armholes. We'll see. That's something I haven't figured out yet, and I still have to work on that. My second work in progress is my scrap wrap, my scrap blanket, my mitered square blanket. This is in my Fringe Supply town bag, and it's still, the bag is still pretty sturdy. It hasn't softened up quite yet. It hasn't had enough use yet to have allowed it to really get loosened up. But I made a little bit of progress on this in the past week. So this is made, I'm using 2.5 millimeter needles, or US size 1.5, I believe it is. And I'm using fingering weight leftover yarns. Most of the yarns are leftover from different socks that I've made over the years, and I'm going to continue adding the squares on here until this is completed and I've done a border, and then what remains left, some of it will get used for my miniature sweaters. The rest of it I'm going to make up into magic balls and start doing a granny stripe blanket, or it'll just be a lap blanket so I can have over my legs when I'm sitting in the living room or in my craft room in the evenings or during the day when it's cold in the winter time. But I'm not going to start that until I have this done. So this past week I managed to add 6 more squares, so that's not bad. It's a decent little bit of progress I've added on there. Where are they? I still have a few more ends that I need to catch up on, but I added this square, these 2, this one, and this guy here. So I've managed to add 6 more squares, so I've got a little bit more added on to my little diagonal here, and I'm now down to 56 squares left to do. So I'm hoping to get that done soon. I'm hoping I can add 6 to 12 squares each week for the next several weeks so I can get it done. It's a project that I've had on the needles since 2014. So it's way overdue to be a finished object. So I really do need to buckle down and keep working on it. I will say though that I have been really consistent in working on it quite a lot over the past summer. It works out for a nice project, or it has been working out for a fantastic project to work on while I'm sitting through all kinds of Zoom meetings at home. And what I do with it is I have a big, well, it's just not a desk, it's one of those big 6-foot long banquet tables, and that's my desk. It has a whole pile of stuff piled on it, but I have my laptop on there, and I have a goodly amount of space right in front of me on the desk. So what I tend to do when I'm working on it while I'm on Zoom meetings is I just lay out the whole blanket on the desk in front of me, so it's not sitting on my lap, it's not up against my body, it's not generating heat on me. And then I just sit with my arms on top of the pile of fabric and happily knit along while I'm sitting through different Zoom meetings and different training sessions and all that stuff on Zoom. So it's worked out really well. It's a project that would be very warm to have sitting on my lap if I was working on it while I was watching TV. Tenya is almost starting to get to the point where it's a lot of fabric sitting on me while I'm knitting and watching TV. Tenya is my evening TV watching or movie watching project. Right now it's just straight stockinette, so I'm just knitting around and around and around in circles. And the scrap wrap is my Zoom meeting or watching YouTube videos in front of my laptop project. So I kind of have the two projects in two different rooms, and I do manage to get some work done on both of them every week. Although once Monday rolls around again, I will be switching over to my mini sweater to get the fourth one done this week. So I have made a good bit of progress. Not as much as I had hoped, but such is life. It was still a goodly amount of progress. I just would have liked to have done more. And I suspect that in the next upcoming weeks, my progress might slow down a little bit as I'm tied up more with work-related things and teaching. I'm teaching online this semester, or 2 classes online, 1 class with Zoom. And those are things that when I'm working on that, I'm not able to knit while I'm doing that. I haven't quite figured out, and I probably shouldn't try to figure out how I can knit and teach at the same time. That might be pushing a few boundaries. I am able to knit while I'm in meetings where I'm only expected to have to listen and not to actively add to the meetings. So that's it. I think it's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode today. I didn't buy anything this week, or I didn't buy anything knitting or yarn related. Let's put it that way. I have done a little bit of other shopping. We went Wednesday, we went on a little road trip. It was one of the first days that both the husband and I had the entire day free with no obligations, and also probably what is going to be one of the first days that one of the last days, I should say, that we both had the entire day free for the foreseeable future. Because now that the academic year has started up again, or will be starting up again this weekend and on Monday, I'm not going to have the same amount of spare time that I had leading up until Monday. So we went on a little road trip. We went out for lunch. We went to a coffee shop that's it's about an hour and a half drive away from us, where they have a little kiosk at this gas station convenience store where they sell Tim Hortons coffee. Now, if you're a Canadian, you know what Tim Hortons coffee is. If you're an American, you live in the northern part of the country, you may have heard of Tim Hortons. It's basically the Canadian equivalent of Dunkin' Donuts. So my husband is a huge Tim Hortons fan. He loves their coffee. And I was able to get him a can of the coffee grinds for Christmas last year, and he's finished that off now. Was it this year or 2 years ago? Either way, he's finished that off, so he was thinking that'd be a fun place to go. So we went there and we got him some more coffee. We got him a cup of coffee to drink that day, plus a large can of coffee grounds, so he can make his own coffee at home. He can make his own Tim Hortons coffee at home. We also got some donuts to bring home with us also. Yes, you're looking at a pair of Canadians who are transplanted into the U.S. So it was kind of fun to get some Canadian stuff. And then on the way home, we made a point of stopping at the Lindt chocolate outlet that was partway between. We've driven past it many times. It's on Highway 81 between Chambersburg and Harrisburg in Pennsylvania. It's in the south central part of Pennsylvania. And they have the Lindt chocolate outlet store located there. And we've drove past it many, many times and have said many, many times that one of these days we're going to stop there. So we finally did. We finally did that on Wednesday. So we popped in there, we looked around, and we bought chocolate. So I bought not a lot of chocolate. They had some of the clearance things on, some of the little Easter bunny, little miniature Easter bunny candies that were just still leftovers from this Easter, which I'm suspecting they probably had a rough year selling a lot of their Easter candies with all of the pandemic stuff going on. So that was on 70% off, so we bought 2 packets of that for like $1.50 each. And they also had, I'm thinking it was their leftover from Valentine's Day, but they were like the ball that has the truffle innard on it, and the wrapping hat was a darker pink with a lighter pink little hearts all over it. And they had the milk chocolate outside and the white chocolate truffle inside. So they had a big bag of that on half price. So I grabbed that. And then they also had bins that you could pick out your own samplings, and you can make your own mix and match bag of the different Lindt, the little truffle ball candies. So I went through and I picked a handful of different varieties, and I think I had about 6 or 7 different, a couple of each of probably 6 or 7 different varieties of candies. So those are all sitting in my fridge right now. So we've got chocolate. My husband's not a huge chocolate fan, so it's mostly for me. I just have to keep it in the fridge and try to make it last for a while, and try not to eat too much of it all in a small period of time. So that was our, I guess you could probably call it excitement for the week. Going to a chocolate outlet store and getting some Tim Hortons coffee. And we had a nice lunch out too. So that was our adventure this week. And other than that, it's not been a lot. It's been a fairly quiet week. Spending a lot of time getting things organized and prepped and ready for the school semester to start up on Monday. Making sure I have my syllabi ready. Make sure all my teaching materials are organized and ready for the first part of the year. Just getting all that stuff done. So I think that's about it. So hopefully next week I'll have one more little miniature sweater to show you, miniature sweater finished object to show you. And hopefully I'll also have a fair bit of progress on my scrap wrap and on my Tenya sweater. So cross your fingers and see if we get to the point next week where I've figured out what to do with the sleeves. It might not be for 2 weeks yet. We'll see. I'm quite happy wearing a summery sweater well into the fall and most of the winter as well. So on that note, I'm going to let you guys go, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, everyone, and have a fantastic week, and I'll see you soon. Bye now.